Hello and welcome to this explainer. Today we are pulling back the curtain on the global Basmati rice trade. We're going to zero in on the critical, highly data-driven decisions made by UK food importers and procurement executives. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar industry here, one where precision is absolutely everything. So if you are in wholesale, food distribution, or retail procurement, grab a notebook because this is going to be incredibly relevant to your bottom line.
It's a pretty simple question, right? What actually defines premium Basmati rice? When a consumer walks down a supermarket aisle in the UK and pays top dollar for a bag of Basmati, they expect absolute perfection. But as B2B professionals, we know that premium quality is definitely not some happy accident. It's a highly measurable, strictly enforced commercial choice. And it all comes down to one absolutely vital specification that dictates literally everything, from cooking performance right down to the final retail value.
And that specification? Well, it hinges on this specific number, 75%. In the international rice trade, a grain is officially classified as a broken grain if it measures less than 3/4 or 75% of its original length. It's honestly a lot like grading diamonds. That single physical measurement is the defining dividing line between a high-end luxury commodity and a basic industrial ingredient.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll be defining broken percentage. Then we'll cover why UK importers care, how breakage actually happens, international grading standards, industry uses and myths, and finally, quality and export certifications.
Section 1. Defining broken percentage. The universal language.
Before a single shipping container ever leaves a port in Pakistan or India, exporters and importers absolutely must have a universal language to ensure their contracts are fulfilled accurately. Broken percentage is simply the proportion of those shortened grains within a specific batch. It really is the ultimate metric for quality. Lower broken percentages naturally indicate a much higher quality grade, and that translates directly into stronger market value. When buyers evaluate things like grain length, moisture, and purity, this broken percentage is the standardized gauge that lets them confidently compare suppliers apples to apples.
Section 2. Why UK importers care. The commercial stakes.
So let's move the narrative from the physical grain itself over to the high stakes in the UK market. UK buyers are laser-focused on consumer psychology, and consumers, they strictly associate long, uniform grains with premium Basmati quality. When a family sits down for a home-cooked meal, or when they're dining at a high-end South Asian restaurant, they expect those whole grains to expand consistently and remain totally separate. That premium appearance is what builds consumer trust. If an importer brings in a batch with a high broken percentage, visual consistency drops, shelf appeal is totally ruined, and you can bet repeat purchases will plummet.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to value. Importers use this single metric to literally calculate their bottom line. Think about it. A shipment containing only 2% broken rice is going to command a significantly higher price than a shipment with 10% broken rice. Why? Because the buyer is getting more intact grains. That means less dust, way better cooking consistency, and a product they can comfortably and confidently position as a premium retail brand.
Section 3. How breakage happens. The mechanical reality.
Now, it's really easy to just assume that broken rice is the result of a bad crop or poor farming. But actually, scratch that. It's entirely incorrect. Breakage is an inevitable mechanical reality of processing. Just think about the intense journey every single grain of Basmati goes through. After harvesting in regions like the Punjab, the paddy is cleaned, dried, dehusked, milled, and polished. Every single one of these steps introduces massive physical pressure and mechanical stress. If the drying process removes too much moisture, the grain becomes brittle. If the milling is even a tiny bit too aggressive, the kernel fractures. Modern processing facilities do use precise moisture management to minimize this, sure, but some level of breakage is just an unavoidable physical outcome of getting the rice from the field into the bag.
Section 4. International grading standards. The global framework.
So how does the global market actually regulate all this? Well, importers don't just call up a supplier and ask for good rice. They buy against highly measurable specifications. And this brilliantly illustrates just how tight the tolerances are at the top. Extra premium allows for only 1 to 2% breakage, period. As we move down to premium at 2 to 5% and then into your commercial, value, and industrial grades, the allowable breakage increases right up to 25%. This tiered system is absolutely crucial because it allows UK buyers to select the exact mathematical specification that matches their specific budget and their target market needs.
Section 5. Industry uses and myths. Sector procurement.
This brings up a great question. Who is actually buying which grade? Because different sectors have entirely different strategies.
Retail supermarkets, for example, absolutely demand that tight 1 to 5% window for maximum shelf appeal. But ironically, the highest volume buyers in the industry actually want the broken stuff. If you're manufacturing rice flour or breakfast cereals, you actively seek out those 10 to 25% broken grades. It's incredibly cost-efficient for them, because visual integrity simply doesn't matter once the rice is milled down into a powder anyway.
Because different industries use different grades, it honestly leads to a lot of misunderstandings. The absolute biggest myth we see out there is that broken rice is somehow contaminated, spoiled, or just poor quality. The fact is, broken rice is simply a size classification. That is the whole shebang. It remains perfectly edible, completely safe, and nutritionally identical to a whole grain. The physical structure was just fractured during processing, not its nutritional profile.
And here is another major myth. Some first-time buyers will fiercely demand shipments with 0% broken rice. The commercial reality and the absolute cold, hard fact of the matter is that zero broken rice simply does not exist at scale. As we discussed regarding the intense mechanical milling process, you literally cannot eliminate breakage entirely. International trade standards recognize this reality and mandate acceptable limits for every single tier, just like we saw in the grading tables.
Section 6. Quality and Export Certifications, the ultimate safeguards.
So how do UK importers ensure they actually get the 2% they paid for? Well, this is their ultimate safeguard. Before a container ever leaves an export hub, independent labs conduct rigorous testing. It's basically an alphabet soup of protection. You've got ISO 22000, HACCP, BRCGS, all functioning alongside incredibly strict phytosanitary protocols. All of this ensures the product strictly meets the exact terms of the contract. This verified documentation is what protects the buyer's massive investment across international waters.
So we've seen how a single metric, just grains shorter than 3/4 of their length, cascades through the entire global supply chain. It dictates price, cooking quality, and ultimate consumer trust. Broken percentage is so much more than just a number on a spreadsheet. It is a foundational commercial decision. So I'll leave you with this final critical thought to consider. Are your current procurement specifications truly maximizing your retail value? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this deeper understanding of international grading empowers your very next sourcing strategy.